An astonishing piece of news shakes Rome. Leo XIV may have moved, and not in any way. One of the most controversial cardinals was received in a private audience. And from there, something seems to have cracked. The voices are chasing each other. The signals are clear, but still ambiguous. It is the kind of shock that is felt before the earthquake. And if the Pope has really decided to act, we could be at the beginning of a turning point that will change everything. But be careful, nothing has been said openly yet. Follow me to the end, because what is happening is worth every second. We had said it, and not out of prophetic mania. The future of the traditional Mass would have been, and will be, the decisive test for the pontificate of Leo XIV. And in the last few hours, signs have arrived that give us hope. No proclamations, no documents, but facts. Facts that speak, and that, to those who know how to read, clearly say that the air is changing. The heart of the matter is not only liturgical, it is political, ecclesial, pastoral. Leo XIV finds himself managing a heavy legacy. On the one hand, an ecclesial body exhausted by decades of failed pastoral experiments. On the other hand, a people faithful to the traditional lex orandi, hit hard by punitive measures, and now waiting for justice. In this context, every gesture has the value of a choice. And the signals of the last few hours suggest that the road to liturgical reconciliation is not closed at all. On the contrary, a slow but real rethinking could be in the works. Of course, the game is not over. But if anyone thought that everything was already decided, they were wrong. Leo XIV, from the first days of his pontificate, has shown attention and prudence. The meeting took place. Private, sober, official. Leo XIV received in audience Cardinal Arthur Roche, the man who, in the previous pontificate, was the executive arm of Traditionis Custodes. An obligatory step? Perhaps, but in the Vatican calendar, nothing is ever completely routine. And the moment chosen, the reactions that followed, the sudden backtracking of an American bishop, whom we will talk about shortly, make one think that it was not just an institutional handshake. It would be the first formal meeting between the two since the election of Leo XIV. And it comes after months of silence and waiting, in which the shadow of Roche, author of the restrictions on the Latin Mass, hovered as a threat to the continuity of tradition. That the Pope wanted to receive him now, and him of all people, has a weight. Because Roche, more than anyone else, represents the hard line of the previous era. And because, if the new pontiff really intended to confirm that line, there would have been no need for so much secrecy. The climate inside the Leonine walls has changed. The meeting was not accompanied by proclamations, but by an immediate domino effect. Within a few hours, an American bishop announced a suspension of the restrictions already decided, postponing everything until October. Too many coincidences, perhaps. But those who have lived for years under the heel of sudden and despotic prohibitions have learned to decipher the details. And today, the detail is that Roche has been summoned, not to wish him well, but in all likelihood to receive instructions. And here we are at the first concrete fruit, or better yet, the first visible effect of this new climate. The case of the Diocese of Charlotte in the United States. Here, surprisingly, Bishop Michael Martin suspended the restrictions against the traditional rite Mass. He did not cancel them, of course, but he postponed them, and not to any date, but to October, precisely the date indicated by the Vatican as the deadline for global compliance with Traditionis Custodes, a gesture that seems to have been suggested or at least approved by Rome itself. The news took everyone by surprise. Until a few days ago, Charlotte was a laboratory of restriction. There was talk of imminent closures, removals of priests, liturgies moved to the suburbs. Then, the change of course, and not a simple declaration of intent, but an official communication from the bishop sent to the priests of the diocese, in which the request of the parish priests to postpone everything is accepted. Why? Because, and I quote, "The traditional community needs to be given time to absorb the change, and because the Vatican may soon change its directives. We are at a short circuit. A bishop who, on the one hand, claims to want to apply the current rules, but on the other, candidly admits that they could change, and when in doubt, he suspends everything. Is it a prudent act? Perhaps, but it is also a very clear indication that Traditionis Custodes is no longer an untouchable monolith. It is a measure under discussion, and the mere possibility that it may be modified is already producing effects in the territories, in the dioceses, among the bishops. We are not facing a declared change, but we are very, very close to it. And the fact that the first concrete signal comes from one of the countries where the traditional Mass is most alive and most participated is not a coincidence. It is a message. Bishop Martin did not act in a vacuum. His decision to suspend the restrictions also stems from pressure, composed but firm, from the faithful. Letters, petitions, clear and respectful requests. The traditional Catholic base did its part, and he won the first round. No open clash, no rebellion, only the quiet strength of those who know what they are defending and why. The signal is strong. Tradition, when lived with order and fidelity, does not divide. It unites. And he is demonstrating it with facts. And it is precisely here that a glimmer of hope opens up that is anything but marginal. Leo XIV might really want to revisit Traditionis Custodes, not to erase it all at once, but to correct it, soften it, perhaps even overcome it. The signals multiply. And the postponement of restrictions to October, just as we await new provisions from Rome, cannot be read as a simple coincidence. It is an expectation full of possibilities. The Pope has not yet spoken officially, it is true, but there are movements. The very fact that Bishop Martin made explicit reference to possible future instructions from the Vatican shows that something is being prepared. It is no longer just a hypothesis from behind the scenes. The Curia is reconsidering the dossier. And this, for the traditional world, is already a half miracle. If the climate had remained the same as in previous years, no one would have dared even hint at the possibility of a revision. Today, however, it is publicly expected. Are we perhaps on the eve of a new document, of a clarification, perhaps of a return, even partial, to the spirit of Summorum Pontificum? It is still too early to say. But the industrious prudence of Leo XIV allows us to glimpse a method. Listen, evaluate, intervene. And if a correction really does arrive, it will be difficult to deny that the Pope has been able to read the signs of the times. in this case, favorable signs. Moreover, it is clear to everyone that continuing to treat the traditional liturgy as a threat is now unsustainable. And if Leo XIV will truly be the Pope of unity, it will be seen here, not in multiplying prohibitions, but in finding the way for true ecclesial coexistence, without ambiguity, without fear, without revenge. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment, Amen. God bless you.